Friends, I welcome you to my channel. Before listening to this story, I will ask you to like and subscribe. It is not difficult for you, but it is pleasant for me. And we're starting. It was our turn to throw a party this weekend. About once every 6 weeks, the 6 of us, 3 couples, usually gathered together in one of our houses. It was Anna's friend Sally and her husband Carl, our neighbor Jackie and her current husband Trent. Sometimes there were others, but this was the main group. We were all about 20 years old and none of us had children. We couldn't. Sally and Carl didn't want anything. Trent had 2 children from his first marriage, but they lived with his ex. He desperately wanted custody of them. There was food, drinks, and we usually had some kind of topic. Sometimes it was a banal chase, cards, a sports event on TV, and when we met at Trent's house, we swam in his pool if the weather allowed. The girls, especially Sally and Anna, organized these parties by calling a little bit to make sure we could get a critical mass together on a certain date. Anna loved to chat and gossip on the phone and enjoyed the organization. She is a busty, curvy woman with wavy light brown hair. She flirts a little, and sometimes it pisses me off. She loves attention, but as far as I know, she never crossed any boundaries while we were together. My family still lives in the coastal town in Oregon where I grew up. I graduated from the state university with a degree in finance and passed the tests to become a certified financial planner. I was a bit introverted, but I enjoyed studying money, markets, statistics, and the history of our economic system. My father sold insurance in our city, and his honest and solid reputation gave me credibility in the financial world of our city. I was actually named after my father. His name was Joseph Washburn, and my name was JT. I started renting an office in his building. I worked hard, setting up meetings with people and explaining my strategy for their money. I told them that in general I want their money to grow steadily but conservatively. I was involved with one of the national companies and received a lot of financial data from them. I also spent some time on my own research. It was something that I really liked. In the first year, I was somewhat successful. My clients were making good solid profits and their portfolios were outperforming the market. I enjoyed sharing office space with my father, and many of his long-term clients became my clients. I tried to meet my clients regularly, get to know them better, and expand my personal customer service. They enjoyed and appreciated this contact. When I started my second year, one thing became clear. There was not enough business in our city to make a good living. I had my own financial goals, and as a student at the Faculty of Economics, I realized that I could not support myself only with business in this city. The weather was good for our party, and we decided to eat outside. We had a large terrace with barbecue and an open kitchen. I asked Anna what she would like to see the topic of the evening. "Let's play a game," she said. "We're going to play a fun and funny game that everyone will like. Doesn't that sound good, JT?" she blurted out. There was a little competition to find out who would have the most fun party. I just enjoyed the company, mostly food and drinks. I admit that I really like my wine, and there have been a few times when I've had an extra glass or two. "What kind of game?" "Don't worry, JT, I'll figure it out. You just cook the barbecue." That was fine with me. I started thinking about the group that was supposed to get together tonight. First, there were Sally and Carl. Sally and Anna have been friends since high school. Sally is a little overweight, but proportionally built. She likes to show off her breasts with low-cut tops. Anna does that too, and sometimes I have to cancel her wardrobe selection. Carl is a diesel mechanic and works in a big store in our city. He's a good-natured guy and doesn't mind when Sally flirts and shows off. He's a big guy, probably 6'3" in, 220 in or so. I rather like him, but I probably would never have chosen him as a friend without the connection between Anna and Sally. Jackie and Trent were neighbors, and I really can't remember how we became so close to them. Jackie has a simple face, but an outstanding body. Not Anna's lush softness, but rather her natural thinness. She's smart, and I find that out of the whole group I have the most in common with her. Trent is a golfer. He is thin and about 5 feet 9 inches tall. There is a certain arrogance in Trent's behavior. It put me off at first, but I've learned to put up with this guy. I'm not sure I trust him, but he's smart, funny, and incendiary at these parties. Just at that moment, I heard the doorbell ring. The guests were arriving. I decided to move my financial planning practice to the city. I joined a firm in the city, but also continued my practice in our coastal town. There was only a 2.5-hour drive between them. My plan was to be there a week a month. That week, I stayed with my parents, met with clients and potential clients. So far, everything has been going well. I shared a room with a guy I went to college with, Julian Lee. Julian was an IT specialist and worked for one of the major banks. Julian was a very creative person, and I was surprised that he chose this particular career path. We had a 2-bedroom apartment in the trendy Maples neighborhood near the city center. I could walk to my office, and there were many restaurants, bars, and boutiques within walking distance. It was definitely a young, modern, and trendy neighborhood. It was in one of these bars that I met Anna. Anna worked at the trendy restaurant and bar Luca's, about 2 blocks from our apartment. I think it was the 3rd time Julian and I were there when I got to talking to Anna. To me, she looked like a rabbit from a Playboy, sensual and beautiful. She always wore something that accentuated her breasts and cleavage. Anna was serving the bar and we started talking, and she asked me all kinds of questions about my life, my career, my goals, and so on. To be honest, I was somewhat surprised that she was paying so much attention to me. She was great, and I'm a nondescript financial planner. I had a steady girlfriend in high school, Gail Benson. Gail was attractive, smart, and fun to be with. We tried to make it work during college, but it was too difficult to do. I dated some girls during college, but in those 4 years, I've never had a steady girlfriend. The night we left, I almost asked Anna out on a date. I even got the impression that she wanted it. I was just a little worried that she would say no, and then we'd have to look for another bar. "Dude, she's hot," Julian said. "You like her. You should ask her out on a date." "Do you think? And you better do it fast or someone will get ahead of you." The next night, I went to Luca's alone and set up a date with Anna for Sunday night. And so we met. I was a little scared. I had never been with such a beautiful girl, but she showed that she liked me. It wasn't long before she gave me what I thought was the ultimate sign. We did everything we could. She was completely uninhibited. She taught me a lot. She did some things with me, and we did a lot together. She is not overweight, but also not too dense body. Soft, seductive, and completely feminine. From time to time, I wondered how she learned all these things. How experienced was she? I mean, I knew the answer. She was very experienced. But I avoided discussing the bed story. I was afraid it would be too painful. Any fright I felt about it was more than offset by my satisfaction. Everyone was sitting on our back porch. We finished dinner and drank about 2 glasses in the evening. I think I drank my 3rd glass of red wine. I had a long discussion with Carl about how he hoped to get the position of manager of the diesel workshop where he worked. He told me that the owner was strictly religious and asked me if I didn't think it would be a good strategy to attend his church to get along well with him. I said that if he wasn't involved in religion, it might seem insincere. He said he would have to think about it. While we were sitting and talking lazily, Sally asked, "So Anna, what are our plans for tonight?" "Okay," Anna began. "Be open-minded, and this is just for fun. We're going to play Truth or Dare." I thought, oh no, but Carl, Sally, and Trent clapped and applauded their approval. I looked at Anna and she smiled, then quickly looked at Sally. Carl and Trent were grinning. Jackie had a half smile, and she was the only one next to me who didn't show much enthusiasm. It all started quite gently, with a hint of a bedtime subtext, nothing too risky. "Who is your beloved movie star? How old were you when you lost your virginity, etc.? And then it was Trent's turn to ask. He chose Anna, and she chose the challenge. "Anna, I suggest you take off either your shorts or your top." "Wait a minute," I said. "It's okay. I'm wearing underwear. It's like a swimsuit," Anna said. Anna loves attention, and there have been times when her behavior was close to crossing the line. While I liked the confident beauty that I considered only my own, and I certainly didn't want others to experience the slightest intimacy with Anna. She quickly took off her top and stood in her lacy white bra. She stood up proudly, and Trent and Carl whistled. Sally giggled. "Come on, girl." Anna liked everyone's attention. I was a little angry, but I kept my thoughts to myself. It went on without any problems. Unlike me, her husband Carl encouraged her. She flashed them, and they were definitely big. Not my type, but big. Everyone was laughing except Jackie and me. I said, "One more round and that's the end of this game." There were a few laughs and protests, but I was worried that we might cross the line. It was Anna's turn, and she asked Trent. "All right, go ahead," Trent challenged. With that, Trent stands up, unzips, and takes off his shorts and boxers. He was spinning a bit like a male stripper. At that moment, Jackie said, "I'm leaving." She looked furious. She also told Trent that he could get into the car with his clothes on or walk home. Everyone dispersed, and the party was officially over. When we cleaned up, Anna was uncharacteristically quiet. We were finishing up, and I said, "This has gone too far, don't you think?" "Oh, it was just for fun," Don't be such a stick in the mud, she replied jokingly. Anna, the people here were naked and almost naked, and you were one of them. Naked? She said. I'll show you naked. And she continued to undress. I was quickly and thoroughly distracted. I was also worried about how the party was going, and I was determined to have a serious discussion about it tomorrow. I also have to say that I'm not the kind of guy who enjoys having his wife flaunt herself with other men. I fell asleep satisfied, but a little worried. On Sunday morning, I got up first and went for a run. While I was running, I planned a discussion that I planned to have with Anna. I was going to stress that I was enjoying the fun and a good party just like everyone else. But my wife and our bodies were just for us. We made this vow the day we got married. I wasn't going to compromise one iota on this issue. When I got home, Anna was laughing on the phone. She must have heard me because the laughter stopped and the volume decreased significantly. It really seemed to me that I distinctly heard the word undressing before she heard me. Who was that? Oh, just Sally, she giggled. She and Carl had a great time and rated our party as the best one to date. About that, I think we should talk about some of the actions last night and in particular about your behavior. For the most part, Anna was good-natured, and it took a lot of effort to make her lose her temper. I managed to achieve this with my comment. She told me that it was innocent, it was just fun, no one else is upset, and nothing happened. I tried to calm her down, reason with her, and explain my feelings, but she wasn't interested. After she attacked me, there was silence. When I started working in the yard, I tried to analyze my feelings. I really didn't think I was being unreasonable. I wanted to give her some freedom to be who she was. That's who I married. I enjoyed her freedom, but everything intimate should be mine alone, including the sight of her body. I must admit, I was a little unsure of myself. Anna is a beautiful woman, and I am a fairly simple financial planner. I know that I look good and stay in good shape. But I also know that all kinds of guys are constantly hitting on her. I have no real reason to doubt her fidelity, but before we got married, there were several cases that activated my radar. At that time, we had been dating for almost 3 months and had been making love almost all that time. I felt close to Anna, we had some good conversations, and I learned about her life. Her father left home, leaving her mother and older sister. Anna craved male attention, and as soon as her body began to develop, she got it. I didn't want to delve into her bed history, but it occurred to me that by the age of 16, her virginity had long disappeared. It sounded like she had boyfriends and random friends that she was playing with, as she put it. Unsurprisingly, she never had to search too hard to find the next one. She loved attention and knew that with her looks, it wasn't hard to attract guys. We were invited to a random friends party next Saturday night. At that time, we had not yet officially formalized our exclusivity, but in my opinion, we were exceptional. She said she loved me, and for me, love and exclusivity went hand in hand. It was December, and the party was a little more elegant than usual. When I saw what Anna was wearing, my eyes almost popped out of their sockets. It was a red dress that barely covered her breasts. You like my dress? She teased. Anna, you look great, but wow, it's pretty meager, I replied. You know I'm probably going to have clients there, and well, that's a little too much. Well, Anna doesn't get angry often, but when she gets angry, it's almost always because of the way she looks. She got angry. She said I thought she was trashy. She said I thought she was going to embarrass me, and so on and so forth. It took a while. I apologized, and even though it was a little frosty, we went to a party and she wore this dress. The house was big on the hills. Beautiful decorations, lots of food and drink. There were some of my work colleagues, people I knew from college, and others I knew from the sports club I was a member of. There was a guy at the party that I remember from college, someone named McAllister, one of those arrogant, handsome jerks. Confident, with an insinuating smile on his face and black hair combed back. He was walking around with that cheeky smile and a glass of champagne. Then he saw Anna. Anna attracted a lot of attention, mostly male, and most of the attention was focused on her cleavage. She was by my side, and suddenly I became popular with colleagues and casual acquaintances. At one point, I went to get a drink, and when I came back, McAllister was chatting with Anna. He acted as if I didn't exist. She loved it. All that attention. And now this cute guy was acting like everything she was saying was the most interesting thing he'd ever heard. I managed to get her away, but as the parties go on, you end up drifting one way or the other, and Anna and I broke up. I talked to some of my work colleagues and they shared some business ideas that were very helpful. I realized that it had been over an hour since I had last seen Anna. I took a quick glance into the living room, kitchen, and family room next to the kitchen. Nothing. I didn't want to sound worried, but I had a need to find her. I didn't see McAllister either. There was a group of people smoking outside, and I went out into the winter air. No Anna. I was on my way back when I heard her laughter coming from the street. I was walking along the sidewalk. She and McAllister were walking down the street. It took her a minute to see me, and while I was watching her and McAllister, they seemed to be enjoying each other's company. "Oh, hi, honey. Jim just showed me his new BMW," she said. "She's a miracle," McAllister said. "I mean the car," he laughed. I looked at Anna. I didn't see anything special. She just seemed a little rumpled. I had a fake smile on my face. I was seething inside. Anna came over and hugged me as they approached. "I'm leaving now," I said. "I just wanted to make sure you wanted a ride home." "Of course I want a ride home," she said. "Why not?" She looked at me questioningly. At that moment, McAllister slapped me on the back. "Good to see you again," and held out his hand. I'm not a bodybuilder now, but I do exercise, and I've always had a strong grip. This, as well as the combination of my anger at Anna and the arrogance of this asshole, led to me grabbing his arm hard. He didn't stand a chance, and by the time he realized what was going on, I was already squeezing his hand. His knees buckled and his mouth was open in a silent scream. "Honey, it hurts you, Jim," Anna cried. "Oh, I'm sorry, it's my fault," I said and headed for the car without looking back. By the time I got to my car and buckled in, she had caught up with me. It was our first big fight. I usually really liked her. She looked great. I knew she was looking for attention and judged her worth by the attention she received from men. At the moment, we have not officially issued anything. However, for me, a stable bed relationship in which we saw each other more than a few times a week and talked about love is an adult version of constant communication. But we never had such a specific discussion. I dropped her off, and she looked at me questioningly when I told her I was staying at my place tonight. "Oh, honey, don't. Nothing happened to Jim. We were just having fun." "Well, I think that's just enough for me for one night. I'll see you later." And I left. She called and texted, and I ignored her. Life went on for me, and I spent a week focusing on my work. The following week, I decided to leave on Saturday morning instead of my usual Sunday evening. I called my mom, and she was thrilled to invite me over for the weekend. I had a good week in my hometown. I've had some good meetings with clients. Professionally, my steady business on the coast and my growing business in the city made me successful. I was achieving my financial goals, and I was noticed in my organization. A week ago, I should have said that my personal life was also developing in the right direction. I couldn't say it now. She kept texting and calling, and my responses were minimal. She asked when I would be back, and I told her it was Friday night. No sooner had I entered my house than the doorbell rang. I opened it to Anna. She was wearing a raincoat with a wrapped gift. "This is for you," she said, and handed me the gift. I opened it, and there was a key in the box, an old-fashioned skeleton-type key. "You have the key to my heart," she said. I stared at her with mixed feelings. With that, she unbuttoned her raincoat, and Miss September appeared in front of me, or, to tell the truth, any other Playboy character from my teenage fantasies. Whatever determination I had, it melted away in a wave of lust. Then I asked her about everything that happened at the party with McAllister. I know I shouldn't have gone out with Jim, but he was so sweet. "So what happened?" "Nothing. He tried to mess around a bit, but that's how I've been treating guys since I was 14. We talked and I told her that I might be jealous. I further said that if she wasn't ready to be my mate, I would be sad, but I would understand. I said that I'm not one to fool around. I'm either in a casual relationship or I'm committed. For me, what we had, I explained, was not a casual relationship. She lay on top of me and said she was also committed to the cause. She also said that she loves me and wants to be with me forever. And then she started using me senseless. As I may have already said, Anna doesn't hold a grudge, and the week after the Truth or Dare party went on as usual. She was a loving woman, the kind I fell in love with. I continued to watch, and nothing unusual happened. Anyway, she was more attentive to me, and seemed to communicate less with Sally, at least when I was around. One Saturday, I was working in my yard, and Trent happened to be passing by. It's not that unusual. He and Jackie live just a few blocks away. He stopped, and we started a rather long conversation about lawns, fertilizers, and gardening. I asked if he wanted something to drink, and we settled down in the backyard to continue the conversation. It might seem normal to an outsider now, but Trent and I weren't that friendly. A little cocky, just not my type. As I said before, we were connected through mutual friends. We had a rather long conversation, most of which was devoted to his children and ex-wife. Obviously, they fought for custody, and she won. The custody document spelled out the norms of morality, and he had heard that she potentially violated certain prescribed rules. He felt that this was exactly what he needed to try to get custody of the children. His affection for his children made him seem a little more vulnerable, which was nice. Maybe I'm wrong about Trent. Maybe he's okay after all. Suddenly he asked where Anna was. We had a pretty tough conversation about his family, and now he's asking about Anna? I told him she was shopping, and we immediately started talking about his custody situation. 15 minutes later, Anna appears in a tiny bikini and fusses behind a screen in the southern part of the backyard, greeting Trent. She likes to sunbathe in minimalistic clothes, and we have a curious retired neighbor named Henry Anderson. Anderson is a good guy, the kind who looks after your house when you're not there and reports on everything that happens in the neighborhood. In other words, good and reliable, just a little curious. He's my client too. That's why I put up the screen. Meanwhile, Trent stumbled as hard as he could to catch a glimpse of Anna. I led him back to the exit, ending our conversation. As he passed through the gate, he shouted, "Do you need any help with suntan lotion, Anna?" That's it. It made me think of another incident. Things got better with McAllister after that incident. In fact, everything was wonderful. I thought about this incident from time to time, but I had no reason to dwell on it. After that, our relationship entered a new phase. I guess I partly justified Anna's behavior, thinking that at that moment we were not devoted to each other. At least, this commitment has not been announced yet. Now we were devoted to each other. Anna was loving and gentle, and it was really fun with her. Have I had such deep discussions as I have with other girlfriends? To be honest, probably not. But we had fun, and in terms of bedding, she was ready for anything. Moreover, she was beautiful. I was proud to be with her. When I was with her in public, it was nice to be around her. She began to ask unobtrusively about our future and where we were going in the long run. I've been thinking about it myself. I'll make an analogy. I always imagined myself driving a Camry, and suddenly I find myself in a Porsche. I had this mental tug of war. One part of my brain was saying that she might not be the perfect match for me. All this fun is temporary, but not for long. The other side was talking. "You're crazy. Every man's dream is to marry a goddess. What's your problem?" I think the argument that broke the camel's back was as follows. If I break up with Anna, will any other woman physically be able to match her? So far in my life, no one has even come close. I proposed to her, and besides the ring, I also surprised her with tickets for a vacation in the Caribbean. Anna was delighted. She really liked the ring, and the trip was only a few weeks away. Anna called her mom in California to tell her, and she also called and had a long conversation with Sally. I called my parents and told them, and they seemed happy for me, but hesitated a little. "Are you sure about this?" Dad said. "Of course, but why the question?" "Well, this is a big step. Anna is a wonderful girl. I'm very happy for you," he replied. I thanked him, but later thought that there seemed to be some hesitation in his enthusiasm. The resort was amazing. There was a swimming pool, many bars and restaurants on site, as well as its own private beach with sun loungers and umbrellas. They also had a beach sports hut where you can rent kayaks, jet skis, and other water activities. Once we got there, we changed into swimsuits for a walk on the beach. Anna had 3 types of bikinis: hot, tight, and micro. I told her that the micro was just for me. "We'll see," she giggled. We took drinks from the beach bar and walked along this beautiful crescent of white sand bordering the clear blue water. Anna was wearing a hot bikini with a transparent white bedspread that covered almost nothing. Men and women looked at her, and I was proud to be with her. We headed back and had a casual dinner at the pool bar. 2 more strong rum drinks, and we headed to the room. We watched the sunset from our balcony, both a little drunk. She was leaning against the railing, bent at the waist. I came up behind her and patted her shoulders. The staff at the resort was very helpful. There was always someone there to get towels, give directions, find out if we needed food or drink, and then there were the beach boys. They were young men in their early 20s who patrolled the deck chairs on the beach. They probably worked mostly for tips. Their main clients were women over the age of 40 who enjoyed the attention of young people. They brought drinks, towels, moved chairs or umbrellas, and, if requested, applied suntan lotion. Naturally, they were attracted to Anna in a bikini. So far, she's moved on to her revealing bikinis. She looked very beautiful. One of the Beach Boys' crews always seemed to be hanging around. He had smooth golden skin, a lean build, and a beaming, white-toothed smile. One day we were walking along the beach, and I asked Anna if she wanted to go on a jet ski. "You're without me. I'm going to work on my tan," she said. "I have an hour-long training session on a jet ski. Have fun and be careful." It was quite fun to race across the ocean on a jet ski. It took a little less than an hour, and I returned to the beach. Returning to the deck chairs, I saw Cruz looming over Anna. When I approached, he was massaging her bare back. He was definitely in contact with the side of the breasts. "What's going on here?" Cruz stood up quickly. "Mr. JT, I don't want Miss Anna to get a sunburn. She needs sunscreen on her back," he muttered. "I can take care of it myself, thank you," and he hurried away. "Anna, what the hell is all this about?" I asked her quietly but firmly. I didn't want to make a scene on the beach, but the beach boy was obviously groping her. "What are you talking about?" "Your top is unbuttoned. You have about 3-4 inch of material on your ass, and this teenager had free access to your body. That's what I'm talking about." "Oh, honey, cool down. Maybe he touched the sides a little, but my breasts are just for you." I probably pushed aside my overly flirtatious behavior with Cruz and switched my thoughts to using her as soon as possible. I suggested a siesta. She knew what I really wanted. I had to carry a towel in front of me to hide my erection as we walked to our room. Eventually, paradise was going to end, and we discussed wedding plans on the way home. Anna was dozing during the flight, and I was thinking about what a wonderful trip it was. The only thought that couldn't escape was about the Latin American beach boy. After the weekend, when Trent came to visit us, life went on. The work was stressful and rewarding for me. The money I was making was not bad. I had done most of my own research, and my money seemed to be multiplying well. Anna still worked at Luca's bar, but usually worked lunch shifts as a waitress. It allowed us to spend most of our evenings together. Anna didn't really need to work, but she liked it, and I think she liked having her own money. As the summer began, Anna and Sally started talking about the couple's next meeting. After the Truth or Dare party at our house, I was hoping that maybe these parties would start to die. After much talking and planning, it was decided that the next party would be at Trent and Jackie's, and it was scheduled for mid-July, in a few weeks. Weather permitting, it was supposed to be a pool party. When I heard that, I immediately told Anna, "Not a single bikini from the Caribbean. I can wear red." "Absolutely not. No way. It's one thing when strangers see you like this, but not our friends." She didn't say anything else about it, and in my opinion, the issue was resolved. On the Tuesday before the party, my mom called me desperately. My father had a heart attack. He was at the county hospital and they were going to have bypass surgery. I told my mom that I would come as soon as possible. I called Anna and told her what was going on. I popped into the house, grabbed an overnight bag for both of us, and we headed to my parents. I had to control myself so as not to accelerate on the way to the hospital. Anna took my hand to calm me down. I was worried about my dad and also about my mom. My dad was a reliable force in our family, and my mom really needed his strength. Considering that his health was in question, I was worried how she would hold up. By the time we got to the hospital and found my mom, everything had improved a lot. My father had a mild heart attack. The bypass surgery was successful, and his prognosis for a full recovery was very positive. They wanted to keep Dad in the hospital until Thursday, and then let him go home. I stayed with him at the hospital on Tuesday evening, and Mom and Anna returned to the house to rest. They returned on Wednesday morning. My dad was really in a good mood, and when Mom and Anna arrived, he was lying in bed doing a crossword puzzle. We were there all day on Wednesday, and it was pretty boring. Anna was polite, but I knew she didn't want to stay in the hospital for long. I didn't really blame her. The hospital is a pretty depressing place. After we brought Dad home on Thursday, I told her that I needed to stay. But why shouldn't she go home? She could have taken my car and either come back for me on the weekend, or I could have picked up Dad's car. He wasn't going to drive for a while. "No, I'll stay with you," she said. "Thank you, Anna. I appreciate it, but you go home. I want them to settle in, and I just need to be with them for a few days." She reluctantly agreed and left on Thursday afternoon. I spent most of my day on Thursday arranging for Dad, running to the grocery store, and just helping Mom as much as I could. I also spent time with my dad, and we watched some baseball games on TV. Boring, yes, but I was glad to be with my parents. On Friday, I called Anna and she asked when I was going to come home. I told her that at least not before Sunday. What about the party? I completely forgot about this stupid party. I'm sorry, honey. I need to be here with my parents. Are you going to go? I do not know. Sally wants me to go, and I think Jackie's sister and her boyfriend will come too. I didn't fully trust Trent, but knowing that there would be newcomers in the group, I was a little less worried that things would get too spicy, like at the last party at our house. Okay, let me know what you decide to do. I'll call you tomorrow. On Saturday, my father was a little depressed. I think he overdid it on Friday and got tired. I hung out with him, and when he fell asleep, I fixed some things around the house to help my mom. Mom made me stop and have dinner. Dad was already asleep by this time. The next step was to move all the things down and put them on the shelves for storage. When I have a project, I focus on it. Suddenly, I looked at my phone and saw that it was almost 10 o'clock. I needed to call Anna. Hey, what's going on? I heard some noise in the background. Oh, hi, honey. I'm at Trent and Jackie's. We're having a good time. Dad is doing well. Just at that moment, I heard a high-pitched scream, and Anna started giggling. What's going on? What, honey? She began to laugh. How much did you drink? Dear, the connection is not very good. Can I call you Ba? And then another background laugh. Suddenly, I distinctly heard Trent say, Take off that top too. And then another burst of laughter, some kind of muffled chatter. Oh, it's getting hotter, I thought Anna said. What the hell is going on? Somehow her phone went off, but obviously they weren't playing a trivial chase. If I had gone now, it would have been after midnight. At that time, I was exhausted and didn't want to risk going home tonight. However, I really needed to know what was going on. Suddenly an idea came to my mind. Henry Anderson. Since he was in my contacts, I called Henry. I explained that I needed some photos of what was going on at Trent and Jackie's. He was ready. I told him where they lived and described where to set up to take pictures of their backyard. He said he would come there immediately. I finished, turned off the phone, and went to bed. If something bad was going on with Trent, I didn't want to go through it tonight. I was physically and emotionally exhausted from worrying about my father. I slept soundly and for a long time. The next morning, I turned on my phone. Anderson sent some photos. They turned out to be worse than I imagined. Photo 1. Anna is completely naked and her partner. Photo 2. He grabs her by the charms. Photo 3. Trent uses Anna. I didn't need to see anything else. This was irrefutable proof of Anna's infidelity. I had seen warning signs before, but I didn't believe she would cross that border. It was unforgivable. A black fog clouded my brain. I just froze, trying to make sense of what I saw. I told my mom I was going for a walk. Is everything okay, JT? Yes, everything is fine. I didn't want to dump all this mess on her because of Dad's health issues. I was walking and thinking. I cried and thought. I've been planning and thinking. It took several hours before I returned home. I was deeply saddened, but I decided to end this marriage, minimize my financial damage, and repay these two jerks, Trent and Carl. First of all, I had to figure out the whole story, and I didn't want Anna to know what I knew. Anna called around noon and was especially affectionate on the phone. I miss you like your dad when you get home. I really miss you and I need you. I almost accused this cheater of using everyone at the party, but I kept my mouth shut. I was going to figure out how to screw her over. I just needed to make a plan. I wanted to protect myself and my assets. I knew I had to behave normally around Anna. I told her that my father had gotten worse and I needed to stay another week. Dad was actually fine and progressing ahead of schedule. I said that I would call her and that it would be better if she did not come. It was hard for Dad to bear this excitement. In fact, I left for the city on Monday evening. I called my old roommate Julian to see if I could stay with him for a few days. He seemed surprised but agreed. When I got to Julian, he said his brother was arriving from New York on Thursday. His brother was an actor, and the play he was playing in had closed, and he was going to consider alternative career options. I explained to Julian what had happened and showed him the photos. He was surprised. He knew that Anna was flirtatious, but he did not think that she would cheat on me. I told him how upset I was and how I wanted to get even with Anna and this whole group somehow. I also told him that I needed to hide what I knew from Anna until I had a plan. He agreed not to say a word. The next day I waited at Carl's office. Carl was a diesel mechanic and he told me that there would be a vacancy for a supervisor position soon, and he was desperate to get a promotion. I saw him walking to his truck, waved and said, "Carl, let's get a beer." He was surprised to see me, but Carl didn't turn down beer very often. There was a place on the corner and we went there. It was like a tavern for workers and it was sparsely populated. After we ordered a beer, I asked him what happened on Saturday night. Just another typical party, Carl replied. Is this typical? And I showed him one of the photos. Hey dude, what were we supposed to do? The girls undressed, it didn't mean anything. Okay, I understand that there is nothing special about this. Oh, by the way, what do you think your boss would say about it not meaning anything? I knew that his boss was very religious and Carl was really hoping for a promotion. He stood up and I stood up. He pushed me menacingly. I turned around and hit Carl. It was like hitting a softball. It was perfect. He immediately fell down. There was not a drop of struggle left in him. I've always noticed that the minute you confront a bully, he becomes a coward. Carl was finished. I helped him up. It all happened so fast that no one in the bar even noticed. And if they did, they didn't care. He started apologizing and blaming others. I told him to shut up and listen. I have a few questions. I also told him that if he didn't want the photos to go to his boss, he should tell me the truth about all my questions and not let Anna, Sally, or anyone else hear that I know what's going on. He agreed. It seemed like he desperately wanted to hide the photos from his boss. We sat for over an hour, and I learned a lot about Anna. Everything he said was plausible and had a twisted meaning. Anna, Sally, and Carl all went to high school together. It was one of the socioeconomic cross-sections of children. There were the rich, the middle class, and the lower middle class. The group that Anna and Sally were in was made up of poorer children. Around the time the girls reached puberty, they also realized the difference in their clothes, their homes, and their parents' cars. Wealthier children ridiculed them for the old-fashioned clothes and old cars their families had. The great equalizer for girls was their bodies. Anna was gorgeous, and although Sally was a little overweight, she had very large breasts. Girls have become popular. Carl was pretty sure that they had both lost their virginity by the time they turned 15. Later in high school, Sally told him that she and Anna had a conversation. It looked something like this. Anna told Sally that all she wanted was to have nice clothes, nice cars, and a nice house. She said she was going to find a man who could provide it. The richer, the better. Carl also told me that at the time Anna and I started dating, she had a boyfriend. She told Sally that she thought my prospects were better. After she started dating me, she continued dating him for almost 3 months before they broke up. You mean she slept with me and her old boyfriend for 3 months? Damn, he said. Since you two got married, I've known at least 2 other guys she's made love to. And that's besides Trent and me. Who? I don't know all the details, but I know that one of them was some cute dude named McCallum or something like that. She said you knew him. It must have been that jerk McAllister we saw at that party before we got married. I just sat there fuming. It didn't seem to bother Carl, he just kept drinking beer. There was no doubt that I couldn't stay married to her. I needed a plan. So you're saying that if someone with more money, a better car, and a better house showed up, Anna would rush to him? I'm sure she would have. After a few minutes of sitting and thinking, I asked him about Saturday night. What happened to Jackie? Was she involved in this? I haven't seen her in any of the photos. Turns out her sister's boyfriend was an asshole and left. Jackie's sister was upset and Jackie took her home and stayed with her. This opened the holiday for the rest. So Jackie doesn't know what happened? No, and don't tell her, he replied. Well, don't you care if your wife makes love to other guys? The wife? We are not married. She always calls me her husband. We've been together for a long time. No, when I get married, it won't be someone like Sally. She's a wonderful girl and I kind of love her. But I'm not marrying her. That's why we don't have children. It was time to leave. I had a lot to think about. Here are the key facts. 1. Anna was more than promiscuous. 2. The main reason she was with me was financial security, and she would have left if there was a better prospect. 3. No one except Carl knows that I know, and so far it will be so. 4. Even an idiot like Carl was smarter than me when it comes to women. I went back to Julian and told him everything I had heard from Carl. I was sad, but the sadness gave way to anger. Yes, and I was also confused. I wonder how many of them laughed at me behind my back. I had to make her and maybe a few others pay. Julian asked a few questions, then plugged in his headphones and started working on his laptop. I was sitting there drinking a bottle of red wine and getting more and more angry. Julian hung up and asked, She's never met John Paul, has she? No, even I haven't seen him since we were in college. Why are you asking? He just shook his head and reconnected. Will you be able to get your hands on about $30,000? Yes, but why? I also need you to rent a BMW for 6 months if this all works out. He continued typing with a sly smile on his face. Finally, he said he had a plan. It should have cost me at least $30,000 in a BMW rental. He told me to go home to Anna tomorrow and do the best acting job of my life. I'm going to have to pretend everything's okay. I have to go back to Julian's on Thursday after work. Then John Paul will be here. The next day, I called Anna and told her that I would be home tonight. I did everything I could to behave normally. Every time she asked if anything was wrong, I just told her that I was worried about my father. Fortunately, either I was a better actor than I realized, or more likely, she just didn't pay much attention to me. On Thursday evening, I met Julian and John Paul at Julian's apartment. After exchanging pleasantries, Julian outlined his plan. John Paul seduces Anna by posing as a New York investment banker. He must reluctantly reveal how rich he is and then make her fall in love with him and his money. John Paul was in the play, which would start in about 5 months, so he had to do everything in that time. John Paul was 2 years younger than Julian and was an attractive guy. Long hair, slim build, and a naturally attractive smile. She will definitely like him. I have to ask you one thing, man, he said. Do you mind if I sleep with her? I mean, she's your wife. I told him that I didn't care, and it couldn't be that they hadn't made love for 5 months. Rather, they would sleep together in 5 days. I gave them her work schedule at the bar and told them it would be better if we met weekly. I didn't want to get caught, and not only did John Paul have to play his part, but I also had to act like a devoted, ignorant husband. The week passed without any incidents or mistakes on my part. I've been trying to notice any changes in Anna. Yes, we had a lovemaking session. Living with Anna, bed was just a normal part of our lives. The good news is that making love to Anna was not a slow romantic act. It was almost a physical competition. Of course, it is satisfying, but also tiring. We met at Julian's apartment on Thursday evening. I was interested to hear the report. My overwhelming desire was to get her involved with John Paul, but a small part of me hoped she wouldn't do it anyway. John Paul has been to the bar 3 times. The first time, he just wanted her to notice him. The second time is a light conversation and jokes. The third time we met. She told me that she works from 11 a.m. to 3 a.m. tomorrow. I'm going to come over at 2 o'clock for a late lunch and have coffee with her. I had to buy a $1,200 suit to play my part. The next week went on. Work, home. I couldn't help but wonder what was going on with Anna and John Paul. One day I noticed that she was home late at night. I wonder what that meant. It was like waiting for the next episode of your favorite weekly TV show. I couldn't wait to hear the latest report on Thursday evening. Here's what John Paul said. They had coffee on Friday. Anna admitted that she was married, but hinted that there were problems and seemed available. She said she wasn't working on Tuesday and agreed to meet him for lunch. John Paul hinted that he was rich and slowly gave little hints. Life with Anna continued, but I began to notice the coolness coming from her. Fine. On Tuesday, I returned home a little after 5, and Anna was not at home. I went for a run, and when I came back, Anna was gone. When I was making salad for dinner, she came home. Hi, honey, how was your day? This is going to be interesting, I thought. Oh yes, I was working late, she replied. I knew it wasn't working, but it was good. Have you been busy? She told some made-up story about her job. I felt like we were moving away from each other. I was going to make it easier for her. I told her that my father needed help and I would have to leave on Friday afternoon. She made a half-hearted attempt to ask if she should go too. I told her it was okay. I was just going to help out a little bit and then stay the next week and meet with clients. On Thursday evening, I found out that John Paul had progressed. Tuesday's lunch turned into a kissing session. He called her on Wednesday, after she found out that I would be out of town, and they made plans for Friday evening. I felt like a puppeteer pulling strings behind the scenes to get the puppet to move in the direction I needed. It worked. As the weeks passed, their relationship developed. The lovemaking between Anna and John Paul happened that weekend when I was at my parents'. There is nothing surprising in this. Our relationship at home was changing. She was moving away. It was a bit bittersweet. From time to time, I saw flashes of the soulful woman I once loved, and it was sad. After about 3 months, John Paul began swearing his love to Anna and asking her to be with him. By this time, Anna believed that John Paul was a wealthy New York investment banker with an expensive apartment in Manhattan. When he asked her about her husband, Anna said almost nothing. unless the relationship is over and that she's moving on. She just hasn't talked to her husband about it yet. A few weeks later, Anna told me that she and Sally were going to a spa in California for the weekend. And is that okay? I knew perfectly well that John Paul had invited her to go to Sun Valley for the weekend. Of course you'll like it, I told her. I knew John Paul was going to propose at a resort in Idaho. The cubic zirconia engagement ring cost almost $500. Cubic zirconia is said to be almost indistinguishable from natural diamond. Moreover, assuming that John Paul was rich, there was no reason to be suspicious. The following Thursday evening, I received a report on a romantic trip to Sunny Valley. He proposed to her, and she agreed. She told John Paul that she had to break up with her husband. He wanted to get married as soon as possible. He told her that he had to return to New York in 2 months, which was true, and he needed her to be with him. That part wasn't true. Anna told John Paul that she would talk to her husband this week and inform him about the divorce. My plan was to fight her and act like I didn't want her to leave. The plan was to arrange for me to keep all my possessions in case of an immediate divorce. Everything worked flawlessly. When Anna told me she was leaving, I was shocked and saddened, and of course I was angry. We're married. I won't let you leave. I won't let you get divorced. I will require many months of consultations. We will figure it out, I announced. I really succeeded in acting. When she met John Paul at the luxury condo he rented with my money, she said I wouldn't let her go just like that. Anna, my love, John Paul said, I have all the money we'll ever need. I have an apartment in the city and I'm looking for a beach house on Long Island. All I need to make my life perfect is you as my wife. You can imagine dollar signs spinning in her brain. Here's what we'll offer your husband, he continued. I'll ask my lawyer to draw up a document in which he will keep all his assets. In return, he will agree to an immediate divorce. She was all for it. When she returned home, I alternated between being angry at her and begging her to stay with me. I kept telling her that I would require several months of counseling before she left. I knew she wanted to leave as soon as possible to be with the millionaire. On Friday evening, she came home with a divorce document. This gave her an immediate divorce upon giving up any rights to my assets, our house, my car, and all my investments. I gave the performance of my whole life. I screamed. I whined. I told her that I would never let her go. Then I told her that I needed to be alone in the basement. While she thought I was sad and depressed, I was watching a baseball game. Finally, with my eyes full of tears, I hid some Visine. I obediently left with the signed document. She had the decency not to celebrate in front of me. When she left, I couldn't help but notice her triumphant gait. At that moment, it was the middle of September. We were supposed to officially get divorced on October 5th. She gave up any rights to my assets and was going to move to New York, where they would get married by the end of October. We met that Thursday at Julian's to plan the final act. That's how the plan was laid out. Anna will stay in the rented apartment for the next 2 weeks. On Friday, when they were leaving, she would return to our house and pick up her clothes and furniture. John Paul told Anna that he would meet her at the house at noon by truck. Then they would take her things to the freight company and send them to his home in New York. Of course, by the time Anna waits with her things, John Paul will have already disappeared. John Paul told her his last name was Taylor. It will be difficult for her to ever track him down. Yes, and very expensive. She just didn't have the money. You're a pretty cruel man, John Paul told me. I disagree, I said. It's not nearly as cruel as she treated me. I understand. I hope you don't mind me saying this, but I'm really going to miss this piece of ass. She was as good as she could be. Yes, I'm going to miss it too, I sighed. My communication with Anna was polite. I had to feign remorse several times. I didn't ask her to change her mind and stay with me. I was afraid she might agree. That Friday, I met her at home when she was packing her things. I almost thought about trying to make love one last time, but decided I'd had enough. She was dressed like she was going to some special place. She thought that was the way it was. By 12:30, she made her first phone call to John Paul, but the room was closed. She asked if she could use my phone. The same result. She called the luxury condo, and they said it was paid for by Saturday, and after that it would be rented out again. She asked me if I could leave her things while she went back to the apartment and saw why John Paul was taking so long. I didn't talk to her until the end of the weekend. It's time for the second phase of the plan. I sent 3 packages with a collection of photos from the party they threw while I was with my dad. In all the photographs, Trent, Sally, Carl, and Anna's faces, and bodies for that matter, were easily identifiable. Package 1 went to Carl's deeply religious boss. There was a note attached to the photos that said, "I believe that a person's moral character is reflected in the quality of the work they do." And you? Package 2 went to Trent's ex-wife. The note attached to this photo said, "Look at what your ex is doing. Thank God the children are with you." Package 3 went to Jackie. The note said, "I think you and I missed the funniest part of the party. I'm sorry to break the news to you, but you deserve to know." And he added, "As soon as everything calms down, would you like something to drink?" I signed all the notes with my name and phone number. I had another unfinished business, and that was McAllister. Maybe I'll ask Julian to come up with something for him too. The epilogue. Of course, Anna tried to revive our relationship. There is no chance that this will happen. She showed up the following Monday evening as if she had just returned home from work. "Hi, honey. I'm sorry for our little misunderstanding. I'm home forever." I just stared at her. "Anna, you've ruined my life," I shouted. "This is not your house. You are running away with someone to New York." "No, I've changed my mind. I want to stay with you. No more playing." "Forget it. Get the hell out of here and never come back," I said coldly. At that moment, she resorted to her old tricks, had already taken off her top and was unbuttoning her bra. I've fallen for this tactic too often to give up now. Closing the door in her face, I said, "Give my regards to John Paul." I looked out the window. She was standing with a blank expression on her face. Frowning, she tried to piece together the meaning of my reference to John Paul. In all our discussions, his name was always kept secret. Of course, Henry Anderson was leaning over the fence and looking at her. Last I heard, she was living with Sally. I'm sure she's already on the lookout. Not only did Carl not get a promotion, I heard he was fired. He left town, leaving Sally. Trent was a completely different matter. When he went to the custody hearing, he was reasonably and firmly refused, and in fact, the court increased his child support and restricted his visitation rights. Obviously, the photos played a big role in this decision. One Saturday night, Jackie frantically called me and informed me that Trent was coming to my house. He was drunk and he had a gun. Obviously, he found where the messages were coming from. I quickly made my way to the backyard, grabbed some blankets and pillows, and created a fake body under the blankets, as if I was reading outside on a chaise longue. I left a small light on to get his attention. I was armed with a baseball bat and hid in the thick bushes. Even if Jackie hadn't called, I would have heard him coming. He knocked on the front door, and when I didn't answer, he went through the gate into the backyard. He immediately noticed the set-up chaise longue. He crept up and shot the blankets twice. The first blow must have broken his arm. At first, I wanted to neutralize the weapon. The next two were on his crotch. I also wanted to neutralize this particular weapon. Then I called the police. With the weapons and the shots fired, no special investigation was required. I defended myself, and Trent was charged with attempted murder. I called and thanked Jackie for the warning. "You're welcome," she said. "Now, didn't you offer something to drink?"